Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's topic is a strange one that walks the line between sweet innocence and full-blown existential horror. If you've ever spent time with a toddler, you know they say the most random things. Sometimes they're hilarious, sometimes they're weirdly philosophical, and sometimes they're so creepy you start questioning the nature of reality itself. Children don't filter their thoughts the way adults do. They don't think, maybe I shouldn't say this because it'll terrify my parents. No, they just say it. And every once in a while, what they say sounds a lot like a memory. Not a pretend one, not something they saw on television, but a memory of somewhere else, someone else, another life. Researchers like Dr. Ian Stevenson and Dr. Jim Tucker have spent decades documenting cases of children between the ages of 2 and 6 suddenly talking about another family, another home, another identity. According to them, this age window is when kids are still forming their sense of self, and if reincarnation memories do exist, this is when they peek through, before maturing brains shut the door. Whether you believe in reincarnation or think it's the brain stitching dreams together, these kids' stories are some of the most fascinating, detailed, and sometimes downright unsettling accounts ever heard. Let's start with a little girl whose mother first thought she simply had trouble learning letters. While practicing the alphabet, this girl kept confusing certain characters, not because she couldn't learn them, but because she insisted that the letters were wrong. She mixed up B's and V's, H's and N's, and her teacher couldn't understand why this child, who was otherwise sharp, kept rejecting the shapes. One day the girl looked at the flashcards and said, "That's not what H looks like. H makes the N sound." The adults froze. English doesn't work like that, but Russian does. The girl then calmly proceeded to write out the Cyrillic alphabet with shocking accuracy. When her mother asked how she learned those letters, the child answered, "Vlad taught me." Not Vlad the vampire or Vlad from a cartoon. According to her, Vlad was her brother from my other life, before he disappeared. Her family was stunned. They had no Russian acquaintances, no Russian books, nothing that could explain this. Yet there she was, writing Russian letters like she had grown up using them. Most toddlers barely master crayons. This girl was decoding a language no one around her spoke. To this day, her mother doesn't know whether to chalk it up to reincarnation or some mysterious early exposure, but the details were far too accurate to ignore. Another mother shared a story about her daughter begging to go home. Not their home, another home somewhere, near the water, where she had lived before she died. The girl described watching waves crash outside her window, said she had another mother with a different nickname, and drew complicated pictures of a seaside house she insisted was hers. Every drawing looked identical. The same coastline, the same angle of the sun, the same house, with one window lit. She talked about her other mama with nostalgia, not fear, as if she were simply homesick for a place her current family had never seen. Then there's the boy who walked into a Scottish pub he had never visited and immediately declared, "My favorite place." His parents thought he was joking until he began describing the layout, the hidden bathroom behind an unmarked wall, the shape of the old fireplace, the names of staff members. He talked about sitting by the fire every time, and mentioned an owner named Fred with casual familiarity. The bartender froze him when the family explained the situation because Fred had been the owner, but he passed away a decade earlier. And yes, there had been a fireplace exactly where the boy pointed. It had been removed years before the child was born. Somehow, this tiny human walked into a building and remembered its layout from decades prior, including rooms that no longer existed. Another child stunned his family by claiming to be his own grandfather. A man named Augie had passed away a year before Gus was born, but when Gus learned to speak, he started calling himself Grandpa Augie. He pointed out his grandfather in photo albums without ever having seen pictures of him before. He also began speaking about Augie's murdered sister, an event Gus's family never discussed, especially not around their toddler. Yet Gus described her in detail and cried when talking about losing her. His family was forced to confront a bizarre truth. Their child was either the world's greatest improvisational actor, or truly believed he had lived as someone else. And then we have one of the most documented cases of childhood reincarnation, the story of Cameron from Glasgow. As early as age 2, Cameron talked constantly about his other home on the Isle of Barra, an island he had never visited, nearly 220 miles away. He described the house with specific features, talked about planes landing near the beach, and even spoke lovingly about a black and white sheepdog. He said he missed his Barra family so deeply that he often cried. Eventually, researchers followed Cameron and his mother to Barra. Guided by the boy's descriptions alone, they found the White House near the beach. The windows faced exactly the direction Cameron described. The dog, long since passed away, had indeed been the same breed he mentioned. There was only one missing piece. Cameron insisted that his father in that life was a man named Shane Robertson, who had died in a car accident. But no records of a man by that exact name existed. Everything else matched. Everything but the father. Some researchers believe Cameron mixed two past memories. Others think someone changed their name. Regardless, the emotional intensity of his longing convinced everyone who met him that this wasn't a game or a dream. Cameron truly felt he had lived before. Another famous case from India involves a girl named Shanti Devi. By age 4, she began speaking about her real home in a city called Mathura, 145 kilometers away. She said her husband's name, described the house, talked about giving birth, and said she died 10 days after delivery. When her family finally traveled to Mathura to investigate, everything she said matched reality, including the identity of the man she insisted was her husband. When he arrived pretending to be someone else, Shanti immediately recognized him. She even correctly answered private questions about their home, details no outsider could have known. Some children provide not only memories, but trauma. A young boy named James would wake up screaming about plane crashes. He said he was a pilot who couldn't get out when his plane was shot down. His parents assumed he watched something scary on television until he began naming aircraft models, describing the Natoma Bay carrier, and talking about a man named Jack Larson. He even reenacted plane motions with uncanny precision. After diving into historical records, his father discovered a pilot named James Houston Jr. had died exactly as their son described. Houston served on the Natoma Bay. His best friend's name? Jack Larson. The match was so accurate that surviving WW2 veterans, decades older, listened to the child talk and confirmed that what he said could only have come from someone who had been there. Then there's Edward, a young boy who constantly complained that his throat hurt. Doctors found cysts and irritation but no clear explanation. One day Edward announced that he knew exactly why it hurt, because he died from being shot in the throat. During World War I, he described marching through cold mud, the weight of his rifle, the moment he felt blood fill his throat after being shot from behind. His parents insisted he never watched war movies, yet the details he gave about WWI combat were historically accurate. Eventually, the cyst in his throat healed on its own. Around the same time, he stopped recalling his past life. In Thailand, a boy named Chennai began telling his family about being a schoolteacher named Bua Kai. He said he was walking to work one day when he was shot in the head. What made the story disturbing were the birthmarks on his own head, one at the back and one above the eye, perfectly aligned with the entry and exit wounds of a bullet. Researchers later confirmed that Bua Kai was a real teacher who had died exactly the way the boy described. But perhaps the most chilling story comes from the Golan Heights. A 3-year-old began insisting he had been murdered in his past life, killed by an axe to the head. The child had a long red birthmark in the exact shape of the wound he described. He told his current family the name of the man who murdered him. He even led elders to the spot where his former body had been buried. There, they dug up a skeleton with a deep axe wound in the skull. When confronted, the man the child accused eventually confessed. A toddler solved his own murder from his previous life. Stories like these leave us with more questions than answers. Some people believe in reincarnation wholeheartedly. Others think children are sensitive to spiritual memories before they develop logic. Others chalk it up to coincidences or the brain's wild creativity. But what makes these stories so compelling is the level of detail. Names, places, languages, trauma, relationships, exact locations of burial sites, military technical knowledge, things that no toddler should realistically know. Whether these stories are glimpses into another lifetime, echoes from history imprinted on a developing mind, or something we don't yet understand, they remind us that the world contains far more mystery than we think. And sometimes, the most profound mysteries come from the smallest voices. If you enjoyed diving into these strange stories of children and the memories they shouldn't have, make sure to subscribe. There are so many more mysteries, unexplained events, and unbelievable real-life stories waiting just around the corner.